Good evening, President Dodd, Dr. Kimberly, members of the Governing Board, and fellow Cabinet members. Thank you for the opportunity to present the second part of our 2020-2021 Student Population Projections Report. This is the second of a four-part series based on our projections report from Davis Demographics, focusing on how student mobility affects projections methodology, elementary school level enrollment projections, and the presentation will conclude with key findings and the opportunity for questions. Mobility in the context of a projections report equates to the number of students that remain in the district from one school year to the next as they move from one grade level to the next. Mobility is reported as an increase or decrease year to year. The overall projections report methodology relies on combining our current and historical student data with the investigation on birth rates to predict kindergarten enrollment, student mobility for retention of student cohorts grade level to grade level, and the student yield factors to better understand the influence new housing developments will have on enrollment numbers. This presentation will take a deeper look into student cohort mobility. Statistically, when examining student mobility from one year to the next, a net increase or decrease of 0 students over time is represented by a factor of 1.0. On this year-to-year mobility chart, a net student loss is represented in red by a factor less than 1.0, while a net gain is represented in green by a factor greater than 1.0. If there is no projected gain or loss, the factor is 1.0 in gray. This chart illustrates student mobility from the 2017-18 school year to the 2020-21 school year. For example, Donald Graham Elementary students moving from 4th grade into 5th grade have lost students in that cohort, while Earl Warren Elementary students in the same cohort have gained students. On this chart, cohort enrollment losses and gains are expanded out from elementary school to the end of high school based on district boundaries. Taken on the whole, 62% of the year-to-year cohorts currently lose students. Now let's take a look at the overall historic and projected elementary school enrollment in graph form. This graph represents the district student enrollment from elementary school students in grades kindergarten to 5th grade. The blue line is actual enrollment numbers. Students enrolled at CBEDS in the 2019-2020 school year was at 9,359. Enrollment was projected to see a slight decline to 9,306 according to our 2019-2020 projections, reported as represented by the gray dashed line. Our actual student enrollment at CBEDS declined to 8,947 students, with projections along the orange dashed line out to the 27-28 school year. The gap between enrollment we expected to see along the gray line and our projected enrollment along the orange line is significant. Students have been lost to many factors, including movement into private school or charter school placements, change of residency to other districts or other states, and other economic factors, and of course, no doubt, including factors contributed to COVID-19. For part 2 of the overall projections report, here are the key findings. 62% of the year-to-year student movement from one grade level to the next is seeing a loss of students. Student enrollment in kindergarten to 5th grades are projected to decline about 913 students in the next 7 years. That's a 10% overall decline. Without question, COVID-19 has clearly had a significant impact on our K-5 enrollment. Thank you for your attention. The next part of this report will focus on student yield factors and 6th grade to 8th grade student enrollment projections.